Welcome back to the Circuit Revival, where today we're going to take a look at this Nintendo Switch OLED. I believe the listing said it was just a no power, so we'll double check that in a second, but just taking a look at the overall condition, it looks pretty good. Other than my fingerprints and stuff on this, it looks alright. I think the first thing I've spotted is, hopefully this will show there, see there's sort of like a splodge of something on the rail, so I don't know whether maybe there's some kind of liquid damage or something on this, but we'll take a look. Suppose we can start by just trying to clean that up a bit. So we'll just get some isopropyl alcohol and we'll just give that a bit of a wipe down and just remove that from the rail. So it looks kind of sticky because it's still sort of on there, it's not just coming off. So yeah, we'll take a look. But as with sort of all things like this, we'll start just by taking a look at the USB port. So I'll just pull the microscope round. So here we are under the scope and just taking a look at this port. Doesn't look too bad. Maybe there's a pin missing. I'm not sure if we can quite see this, but just here. So there might be something missing, but I don't know if the original port actually has anything there. We try flip it over. You can see there's two tall ones, but this one looks like it's missing. Try and see if we can see if it's pushed down to the bottom there. It doesn't look like it is, but see on that side there's two, but this side it looks like maybe one's missing. But I don't think that's enough to cause too much concern with trying this out, because I can't see it on anything, so I don't think, actually no, I think maybe we can see it. Is it rolled all the way down to the bottom there? So I think we will risk testing this with the charger. So I'll just pull up the ammeter. So we can just see just in the top right corner here, there is a screen, and this should tell us hopefully a bit more information as to what's wrong with this. So we'll just plug this in and you can see it goes up and comes straight down, which to me does feel sort of indicative of a short on the board, which makes me think that maybe it is that pin that we saw is causing a problem. So I suppose the next thing to do is just get this apart. We can double check that we have no game, and then just underneath the flap here there is no card in there either. So we'll just get this apart and then we'll jump back in and see if we can see anything else. Now I don't think anyone's been in this before, but just from my experience of taking apart other switches, those screws just felt a little bit too loose, so maybe something to keep an eye on. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back in here and say, yeah, for certain this has definitely been opened before, because these screws here are basically hanging out. So I'm not sure quite what that means for us with this, but we'll see. Okay, so we've just got the back plate off and I've just got the battery disconnected here. So what we'll do is we'll just check what the voltage is on the battery to begin with. So we'll just go on either end of the contacts here. And that is showing absolutely nothing. Just see if I've got a good connection. Okay, that doesn't seem ideal at all really. So let's just have a look at the board whilst we're here. So I'll leave it still in the chassis for now. Let's just pull the scope round and just see if we can see anything major. Okay, so here we are under the scope, just starting down where the sort of battery connector is, and then down over to the USB port. And then I suppose one of the main things that I want to kind of point out at this stage is just this sticker here, which is the water damage indicator, which currently, if it's fully pink, means it's seen water. If it's not, it hasn't. So there's a chance there was just something on the side. Usually there is a fuse around the USB port here, but I can't quite see. I don't know whether maybe it's hidden under this shield or something, but I would test that first to work out what's going on there. We'll continue to work our way around. I think this here is just maybe just flux. Yeah, so I don't see anything stand out there then, so I think we'll continue getting this apart. But what we might be able to do to begin with is just see whether we can read a short maybe on the battery terminals. So we're going to continuity, and I'm just going to go on the two end ones here, which would be the positive and the negative. And it does read open, which is good, so we don't have a short there. So I think we continue getting this out and see if we can take a closer look at that port. Okay, so we're finally out the chassis here. This last little bit, just getting it over the lips, a bit difficult. So here's the board. Now, as we went in deeper, there were some screws that were quite tough, so I don't think they went any deeper than maybe just taking the back off if anyone has been in this. So what we can do then is just take a closer look at the USB port, considering that's where it seemed like maybe we had our problems. So just looking on the scope a bit closer, I'm not sure if I can tell if that is a pin in there or not. It definitely looked like there was one poking down. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think we'll need to replace the port on this either way just to be certain. And I think these have a sort of like a cap on them that you can kind of ping off. We'll just take this cap off and put it in there. I suppose what we can do to try and see if anything is shorting itself out is maybe if we bring it under the scope again and we'll just test continuity against the pins. Now I don't know which pin goes to where, but we can kind of just test along them. It was this pin here and this pin here. They look like one would be ground and one would be the main power rail. So I suppose what we can do just to begin with test out is just test for any shorts around the board. So we think there's one on the main power rail anywhere here because of this pin and this pin being shorted, but we know that BQ and M92 tend to be sort of common issue points as well, so we'll just test around on those. So we should get a beep on one side. Okay, that seems all good, and then we'll just flip over to M92 and we'll just test around there as well. Okay, so we have something here. So this guy here, this capacitor here, see we get a bib on both sides. Now it should only bib I think on the top side because this looks like the ground plane. So we shouldn't have it bibbing on the bottom side. Now that could be connected to our port or it could be a bigger issue elsewhere. So I think what we'll start off with doing then is just remove this port and then we can test that cap again and see whether it's still shorted. Okay, so what we'll do to get this off then is I have my tweezers ready. We'll add some flux to the board, if I can find the flux on my desk, just here. So we'll just come in with some flux and just add it around. And then what we'll do is I've got my hot air here and I'm just going to come out from underneath and I'm just going to wave it around underneath, as you can see here, and then once the solder's wet I'll lift it up. We should be able to see that by keeping an eye on sort of these ground points here, here, here and here. We should see them start to get wet and then we can just lift it up. So here we go. Okay, so that is the port off. I think there's actually a cap bit on both sides and it's like only for, remember to take one side off and it looks like I forgot to take the other side off. So there is our port, so we can just put that off to the side and we'll just give this a little bit of a clean up to begin with. Okay, so just taking a look there, it looks like actually that bit that fell off is attached to the board as well. So we have our port off, so we can now test whether that same cap is shorted or not. Okay, so here's the capacitor that was shorted, and I'll just put one of my probes on a ground point, which this little mounting point should do. You can see it's connected to that, and we'll just go on the bottom, we get a beep, and then on the top, nothing. So beep on the bottom, nothing on the top. So that is evidence that our port was at fault. And now that it's off, can we see any clearer? No, I don't think so. So our port definitely is the issue there. I don't have any OLED ports at the moment, so I just need to get some on order, but I'll just double check again around M92. Like simple things like this, just check this fuse is still good. Okay, that seems fine. So I'll get a port ordered, we'll get this swapped and then see if we fixed it. Okay, so I've ordered the new port, that'll be here soon, but whilst I'm here I just want to jump in and rectify an issue that a load of you would have seen, which is where I've knocked off this back plate. You can see just at the top here the two little clasps that hold it on. So you're supposed to lift this up. I did the first side, I forgot to do the second side. So I'm just going to try and get this back on first of all. So I'm going to add a bit of flux to the solder points here. And I'm going to add a bit of solder. Then what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay this on, heat it up from underneath, wait for it to solidify, and then try and ping this back off again. So I'll just get some solder. Okay, maybe a bit too much solder on there, but hopefully not too bad. We're just trying to line this back where it should be. And settle that. Okay, so I think it's a bit too high, but it might just flow back into place. So I'm going to come back in from underneath with the heat, and we'll see if this just slides back into place. Okay, so hopefully you saw there, it just sort of started to wiggle around a bit. And then as I try and clean this up a bit, you'll see it's sort of stuck in place. So I'm hoping that is now where it needs to be. Try and clean this up a bit. And then the next step is try and see if we can actually get this cap off the way it was supposed to have been taken off in the first place. And there we have it, and they look, relatively speaking, exactly where they need to be, so hopefully that's that part fixed. So we just need to wait for the new port to turn up, and then we'll get that replaced. Okay, so it's been a little while, I've been away, but the new ports have arrived, so I actually have some ports here for the OLED. So we'll continue on from where we left off then, and we'll just get a new one of these on and see whether it clears anything. So if we remember, there was a short on the board just on this cap here. So we'll get the new port on, and then we'll double check whether that goes afterwards as well. So as always with these ports, what we'll do is we'll go for the drop method. So we'll just get one of our new ports. We'll add some solder to the port itself, and then we will heat up from underneath the board and then just drop it in place. So if we bring the scope round, okay, so here we are under the scope with the new port. So what we'll do is we'll start just by adding some flux to it. So if we get some flux on the pins here, and then what we can do is add some leaded solder to the pins, and that means that when we come to drop it onto the board, it should help it attach a bit easier. So we'll just come in with a bit of solder and we'll run it across the pins. There we go. So they're nicely tinned now. And then we've got the board, which we can just add a bit more solder to just to be certain. So add some to the ground points, and then we'll just run over the pads themselves. There we go. We'll just clean the flux off of the board here then. We'll add some more on afterwards, but we'll start just by removing this stuff. This helps it make sure that the new port goes on just a bit more cleanly. Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll get our stands back again, and we'll lift this up over the edge of the table. Okay, so here we are over the edge of the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up from underneath, and then I'm just going to come in with the new port, and once it's all molten, we'll just drop it down into place like so. So we'll get our hot air station back, and we'll just wave around underneath here. And you'll know when it's ready because these points here will drop down and they'll be molten. Okay, so we'll come back in, we'll clean this up nice and quickly. So you probably saw that it was a little bit fiddly because I tried to put the port in, and then because the port has so much mass, it sort of solidified the solder. So we just need to hold it on a bit longer just to make sure it actually sits down properly. So that's still a bit warm, so we'll get some IPA and hopefully try and loosen some of this off a bit. Just come with the brush, just try and get rid of the bits in the little gaps. And what we'll do just quickly is just double check all of these pins are soldered. We'll just give each one a little nudge. Okay, they all seem solid to me. Okay, there's our new port on and it looks pretty solidly connected to me. So what we'll do next is we'll just double check this capacitor, which was shorted before. Okay, so once again back in the top left hand corner just up there, you'll see is the multimeter. So we'll just put it into continuity mode, which is the mode that beeps when we have a complete circuit like so. And what we'll do is we'll take one probe on ground, which I'll just take the USB port itself, and then we'll check both sides of this capacitor. So nothing on the top and a beep on the bottom. So it shows that our port is swapped and our short has gone. So what we'll do is we'll get this back enough into the chassis to give it a test and see if it turns on, because I'm still not fully certain on the battery itself. Okay, so as this is the first OLED I've looked at, I don't know quite how much of it needs to go together to test, but I think we might have enough there to go. So we'll just get our USB cable, we'll plug it in and see what happens. So if we remember before, it used to sort of just bounce up to 5 volts and then get stuck. We plug this in. Okay, so something interesting has happened with this port. So now that I've got it all in together, it looks like some of the solder has got stuck inside the port itself. So if you just take a look there, there's a little dot, which I don't think they're like that naturally. No, so it looks like some of the solder has made its way inside slightly and got stuck. So I might try and see if I can remove it with just a bit of wick, but I don't know whether that's the best idea. I don't know whether to do it in the chassis or not. It came up slightly. Try it again, see if we can get rid of the last of it. Okay, that looks better. It's still not fully gone, but let's see whether we can at least get a cable in there now. Yeah, okay, so we'll get a cable in there now. So let's attach our battery back in. And then we'll plug this in and see what happens. Okay, so we get our 15 volts and there we go, we have a battery symbol. Excellent. Nice one. So it looks like this was just the port that was a problem. So I'll get this fully back together and we'll test it out properly. Okay, and here we are all back together again. So the Switch OLED is definitely a lot more involved in its sort of put back process than the standard switches. So we'll just double check we've not made anything worse by putting it together. So hopefully we should get that charger symbol back again. That's good up there, and charge symbol, fantastic. So what I will do then is I'm going to leave this to charge up because I think this battery is pretty dead, which I think is sort of signified by how low the amp draw is down here. So I'm going to let this charge. I'll grab some Joy-Cons and a game, and then we'll be able to test this once it's all turned back on. So I'll jump back in once it's up and running. Okay, so as we can see just up here, the amperage has jumped up to 0.4, so I think it's getting a bit of charge in it now, so we'll continue to leave it and hopefully it should then boot up soon. Okay, so we have the boot there, it's just turned on. Touchscreen works. See whether Joy-Cons connect then. There's left connects and the right connects. Let's go down to system settings, see if we can get onto the internet. Okay, so we're connected to the internet and cool, internet works. And the game card and the game card reader works too. Amazing. So that's a pretty good fix there. Nice and easy, just a port swap. So what we can do is increase our number here to 24 to 10. So thanks for watching in, and we'll see you in the next one.